We're going to talk today about a company that's we take a lot of pride in here in our hometown of Rochester. It's been around since 1892, and one of the things we forget is how difficult it is to keep remaking yourself. The past always has a constituency, the status quo, but change is harder to keep promoting. When you look at companies that were listed for the first time in the New York Stock Exchange in the Dow Jones Index, there's only one around since 1890. That's General Electric. So it's very difficult to keep transforming yourself. It's something Kodak has done quite often in its history, and we're going to focus on one particular aspect with two particular constituents for change that have some direct ties to that latest innovation. We're proud to have with us here the CMO for Kodak, Jeffrey Hayzlett, tell you a little bit about his background. He joined the company in 2006. He's the head of business development. He's also a vice president, member of their board. He's won numerous national honors. He's been inducted into Business Halls of Fame, won Business to Business Marketer of the Year by B2B Magazine. Frost & Sullivan Lifetime Achievement Award, current chairman of the board of directors of the Business Marketing Association. He's also appeared as a guest or commentator, everything from Fox Business News, CNBC's The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch, and probably most familiar to us as part of Donald Trump's Celebrity Apprentice show. So Jeffrey, welcome.
Thank you. I have to correct you on one thing. I'm not a member of the board. I would like to be. Okay. So if Gerard or David, you guys could work that out, that'd be a pretty good deal. So as of today, I am. Let's just go with that.
And then Ron Karr, who's a prolific author. He's done 3 books. His most recent one, he'll autograph along with Jeff because Kodak's featured prominently in the book. It's called Lead, Sell, or Get Out of the Way. His other books, Titan Principle and The Complete Idiot's Guide to Great Customer Service. He's appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Business Report, CBS Morning Show, Bloomberg TV, BBC, and hundreds of radio guest appearances. Thank you, Ron, for joining us as well.
Thank you.
Jeff, let's start with you.
Sure.
How did Kodak get into the inkjet business?
Well, I think we were looking for innovative models. As we started making our transformation over the last couple of years, you always go back to your roots. You know, George Eastman said, "Push one button and we do the rest." And the inkjet model is broken, and you got to question a model. And every one of you guys know what I'm talking about. You question a model where you go to a store, and you can pull the inkjet machine off the shelf, but yet the ink cartridges are locked up behind a counter. I mean, there's something wrong with that model. If I were to go and tell you, you know, if you filled up your gas tank today with ink from the big ink company, to give you an idea, high-priced ink, that's what HP stands for, but I don't know if I want to say what, I'm not talking about a particular company or anything, I'm just talking about big ink. But if you were to fill up your gas tank, I mean, that would run you over $400,000 to fill up a 20-gallon tank. And most people would say that they feel like they're getting ripped off. I mean, that's what we hear. When we go out there, talk to the customers, that's the things that we hear. And so in this spirit of, you know, working for our customers, and I think most of us know that Kodak has got one of the highest trust factors there is in the world. Kodak has got this, you know, taking care of me. We've been in charge of your memories for over 100 and some years. That we said, look, we found an innovative way to be able to do it better. And so we came out with pigment inks, which allow us to make better pictures. Allows you to get them wet. So if you get, you know, if you read the fine print on the other company, it says you must print your pictures out. You must read the fine print. I encourage everybody to do this because this is really comical and kind of interesting. It says print them out, set them under a lamp for 7 days, and let them cure. I don't know about you, but I can't let my instant messages, my Kodak memories, my moments cure for 7 days. I want to touch them and feel them. So we said we're going to come out with pigment inks, and we're going to do a different model. And our model says that you're going to pay a fair price for the printer, and we're going to charge you reasonably priced ink. And it's capturing the voice of the angry customer. That's what Ron has written about in his book, about saying that we're just going to do things a little bit differently and capture that voice of the customer. And it's been, quite frankly, a resounding success. So You know, we've got an unbelievable history in our company of doing things in the dark, so to speak. I mean, we used to put film together, layer upon layer, like 21 different layers. And if you've ever had a chance to tour our facilities in Rochester, they do it in the dark. And we figured out we can coat, you know, fine particles of liquid, you know, ink, and we can make beautiful quality pictures or prints or documents just like we do with film, and we can turn the lights on. That was pretty innovative. And so we just said, look, let's take that to the people, and we think we can make that work. And that's what we've done.
And what's been the biggest challenge
along the way? Well, the biggest challenge is being a newcomer. And so we're the challenger brand in this activity. So we did this about 2.5 years ago when we launched it, and the all-in-one inkjet printer, the 5200, the 5300 were our first ones. You know, we grew phenomenally. Typically when you roll out a product like this in the consumer market, an inkjet product, you would probably maybe sell 20, 30,000, maybe 50,000 at max ever the first year. And we sold 500,000 our first year. And the second year, we doubled that. When typically you'd probably on your second year, because of the problems that you're typically going to have with a startup, because when you start up, and I know most of you have studied this, you have problems with products. They don't all work, the customer service isn't worked out right, and you got to change things. And so, but we doubled that. And then this year again, we'll be coming close to that as well. The marketplace today is down with the economy, and today's, we're sitting here in August of '09. The marketplace for our competitor, for Big Ink, is down 27%. And this year, you know, we're up 47%, including the ink and the equipment. And I think that stands for itself. That's almost completely opposite of what our competitors are doing. So I would say that if you're looking at measuring success, that's pretty good, especially when I was in New York yesterday, and most people said, minus 27 growth is the new plus 5, you know? So I think we're doing a pretty good job. Pretty good job.
Ron, tell us a little bit about the book and why you wrote it.
Well, for the last 20 years, I've been advising and speaking in front of organizations on 3 continents, and they're all having the same problems. You know, how do I increase my market share? How do I sell more? So the book, Lead, Sell, Get Out of the Way, you may have a question as to why did we title it that way. I have a question for you. How many of you really want to be sold to? Anybody? Not many of you are raising your hands. But how many of you want assistance in the acquisition process? How many of you would like some guidance and someone coming in, finding out where you're trying to go, helping you find out the issues that are at hand, and helping you develop some solutions that are going to give you the results that you're after? Well, isn't that what a leader does in life? So that's why we said if you're going to really sell today and be a top producer, you have to exhibit the same 7 traits as effective leaders do. And that's why we called it Lead, Sell, or Get It Out of the Way. The sell will come as a result of you being an effective leader. And if you don't do that, then you will get out of the way, either by your own decision or by somebody else's. But that's what the economy and the marketplace is calling for. So, you know, as an example, we're going to be talking about Kodak here today, but as an all-encompassing example, if you will, one of my clients was a manufacturer of chemicals. And that's a really commodity situation, if you will. Now, they developed a high-specialty chemical that really cut in half the cost of mining copper. Now, when you come out with a new product and it's accepted by the marketplace, you know that your sales shoot up exponentially. But then what happens? People see that you're making money and they want in the game. So they reverse engineer and they come in with their own offerings. So when they got a hold of me in the early 90s, they had 60% of the market share, but they only had 25% of the largest customer's business. And all the bids were up for that entity. So I walked in, and we started exhibiting the 7 traits of leadership that we talked about. We started with the one thing that you have to start with, was this vision. And I said, you know, what is it that you really want to achieve here? And they said they want to win the bid. I said, no. Stop. That's not vision. If you could take a white piece of paper with nothing on it, and you can create your own destiny, what would it look like? All of a sudden, the passion started coming out. And they said, why do we have to win the bid? We started this technology. We owned it. I said, so what do you want to do? We don't want to bid. We want to negotiate an agreement. I said, for how much? For 75% of their demand. For how long? 10 years, the life of the patents. And I said, okay, you want them to throw out the bid process, give you a negotiated agreement for 10 years for 75% of their demand. And I said, you could do this if you really want to, but what you have to understand, it takes a different set of actions than if you were just simply winning the bid. Now, of course, initially they didn't really believe me, but they were willing to go along for the ride. And over 18 months, we transformed their positioning in the minds of that customer to the point where we were able to leverage some of their core competencies, put it into a process, a service that no one else had. And at the end of the day, after 18 months, they looked at the bids and they said, you know what, these other two companies don't have it. Let's sit down and let's talk. And they won a 10-year, $200 million supply agreement. So that's what we're talking about. Now, you don't have to sell $200 million supply agreements to win with this strategy. You could sell furniture polish. But it's the same thing at the end of the day. People don't want to be sold to. They want help in the acquisition. They want solutions to the problem. So that's number one. The second thing is in today's environment, we have to produce a lot more. Would you all agree with that? People are being forced to do a lot more with less. So 30 years ago, as a top-producing salesperson, it really was dependent all on my efforts, and I didn't really care about your efforts. Well, not so. Today, if I'm really going to grow, I have to do it through the efforts of others. I got to leverage. I have to use social media to get people to start talking about me, to become viral. I got to get you to refer me to the next door neighbor so that I can get some business. I may, in committee buying, I may have to have you talk to your colleague so that you all come to a yes answer, not a no answer. The bottom line is I can't succeed anymore on my own efforts. If I really want to dominate the market, I really have to do it through the efforts of others. That's why you need to be a leader, and that's why we titled the book Lead, Sell, or Get Out of the Way.
Ron, you've done a lot of consulting, everything from the NFL, Aflac, Hertz, Marriott. When you look at the marketing professionals out there, what's the one thing, if you could change? And you write about this in your book, too.
It's mindset. You know, there's several mindsets I talk about in the book, but there's really one key mindset. I'll ask all of you a question. I just want you to respond by hands. Fair enough? Get some energy going here. If I asked you in your efforts, whenever you sold something or you're trying to influence somebody, right, your professor or whoever, okay, would you say that when you're talking to them, are you self-focused or customer-focused, meaning you focus on them? How many of you would say you're self-focused? Raise your hands. Not many in the room. How many of you would say you're customer-focused? Raise your hands. All right. That's usually what happens at the beginning of my talks. At the end of the talk, I ask the question again, and all of you would be raising your hand under the self-focus. And the reason is simple. We really want to be customer-focused. We really think we're customer-focused, but our actions don't show it. For instance, we tend to puke when we try to sell people.
Is that a business term?
It is now. And we're trademarking it. Now, I don't mean to be gross, especially after you had lunch. Some of you have food up there. But, you know, think about it. It's people who utter knowledge about everything. So when you have been sold to, right, what's the seller doing? They're puking all over you about features, most of which mean nothing to you as to why you should buy their position. Is that a fair statement? I mean, it's not a pleasant scene. They're making a mess of you, they're making a mess of them, and they're just puking. So how many times do you puke in your conversations with people you're trying to influence?
Well, hopefully not very many. But
Well, but you know, unfortunately we do, because we keep talking about why people should be doing this. We keep talking about what we think is important. We keep talking about what we want. And how many times are we engaging people as to what they want, what they think is important, and what are they going to be perceiving as a valuable solution? And what you'll find is that every time you're trying to influence people, you probably do err on the side of puking. So the transformation that has to happen is for people to go more from a self-focused mindset to a customer-focused mindset. It's not about what you're selling, it's about what it's going to do for the person on the other side of the table. So have the conversation along those lines, and you'll see that the sales will come easier for you.
if I can add to that, I mean, that's exactly what we've done with this inkjet model. I mean, it's a great example. I don't know if I want to use those exact words, but in terms of capturing, yeah, it's certainly edgy, and it required me about a half day in an HR seminar, so I don't want to do that. But in a big company, that's what happens. is about capturing customer behavior. That's what you're talking about. I mean, in your first example that you started talking about, that's what we've done. We captured customer behavior. We're going after the high ink burners. These are the folks that want to print things, don't want a draft mode. So we took draft mode off the printer. Who does a draft mode of a photo? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And the reason you put a draft mode on there is because you're ashamed of what it cost you to print the thing out, and so you put a draft mode on there. And so that's what our competitors have done. So we took draft mode off. So we went out and captured the essence of the customer behavior, because and the New York Times actually wrote about this on the front page about how we capture this angry voice. Well, the result is we're selling twice as much inkjet cartridges to our target customer than our competitor. Twice as much. Not to mention they pay more for the printer, but they're buying twice as much. So we've gone out and carved out the high ink burning marketplace, which means we move to profitability faster, which means we got good customers, and we're aiming at that customer. So we very customer focused in terms of, although we're selling to them. I mean, we're selling the value proposition, and that's the key, is that value proposition and how you do that, because it's different. And the other thing is, I liked what you said about getting other people to do your job more with less, and we call it OPM, other people's money. And so how do I get other people's money? How do I get people talking about us? How do I get people engaged? And we get them engaged by getting the value proposition. And what's it do for us? It's a very difficult thing to do, Dean, is to be able to go out and sell a value proposition that says we're not going to give you the printer for free and then take advantage of you on the inkjet cartridge. We're going to charge you more than our competitors for the product, but we'll charge you less for the inkjet cartridge you put in. And not only that, you're not going to need an algorithm to go get the inkjet cartridge. How many of you ever done this? 52, 53, huh? It drives you crazy. Well, guess what? You got a color inkjet cartridge and you got a black ink cartridge. That's it. $14.99 for color, $9.99 for black ink. And by the way, when you move from this printer to this printer and you upgrade, that inkjet cartridge works from that one into that one. Very simple. Because the value proposition resonates, and you charge more, and then what you do by doing that, from a marketing perspective, is you drive up your net realized rate, which means what you can charge for it. By sticking to value proposition, you get more back from it. It moves your profitability as a company up. And that's what we've been doing with this whole campaign. And it's been very, very successful. And it's some of these same attributes. I think that's why you chose us to put us in the book, which we were really pleased about, is to really focus in on that value, the value statement.
And on that unique values proposition, Ron, why did it get the prominent feature in your book?
Well, I think we have a slide. I'm not sure if it's up there yet or not. But if you look at the perceived value equation, it's like this. CNC minus CC equals PV. And CNC defines the phrase cost of no change. CC is the cost of change, and PV is perceived value. Now, obviously, to have any kind of perceived value, there's got to be a positive metric on the right-hand side of that equation. So what's CNC? The first thing you have to understand is that we are selling change. Anytime you're asking someone to buy anything from you, you're asking them to change. If you're selling a product at a higher price, you're asking them to change their perceived value, how much it's worth. If you're asking someone to start buying from you versus a competitor, you're asking them to change vendors. If you're asking them to start buying a new process that they've never used before, you're asking them to change the way they're doing things. So anytime you're asking someone to do something, you're asking them to change. Now, there's a pain with change. The pain is, are you sure it's really going to work the way it's supposed to? The amount of money that you may have to pay that you didn't want to pay. The fact that you have to learn how to use a new product. The fact that you have to go out and buy it, install it. You can see that there's a little effort involved, what I call the pain of change. So why would you go through the pain of change if it's not really a compelling reason? An example, if we just use numbers, if we put the number 3 for the CNC, and let's say that's how much you're going to lose if you keep doing things the way you've been doing. And then we put the number 2 for the cost of change. That's how much it's going to cost to get a different solution. Then perceived value is 1. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not running to the store for a value of 1. All right? There's not enough. My gas will eat it up, if you understand what I'm saying. There's not enough of a compelling reason for me to go through the pain of change. So not only do you have to have some kind of perceived value, but you've got to do whatever you can to hook it into a compelling reason. We will only be moved to buy things if the reason is compelling enough. So when I called up Jeff and I mentioned that this is the process that we're working on, you know, what can you talk to me about? He started talking to me in excited tones, you know, about the research that they were doing with the marketplace and how people were like, you know, parents were hiding the printers from the kids because, you know, they wanted to print, but it was so costly and the parents didn't have the money that they would start hiding the printers. So that got my attention, you know. That's a pretty interesting dynamic. I didn't hide a printer for my daughter, but I necessarily didn't buy the print cartridges, okay? You know, don't worry, I forgot. I'll go get it in 2 weeks, you know. But, you know, so people wanted to print, but now all of a sudden they can't print their cartridge, the pictures. They're not getting the pictures printed right, and the cost of the ink is way too high, and there was a lot of upsetness out there. People were not happy with the technology that they were having. So Jeff said, you know, we came up with a solution, and it's this new inkjet technology, and basically it cuts the cost in half of the ink. And using the ink, it actually lasts a lot longer. So I said, well, how are you going to bring this to the marketplace? And they started throwing numbers. They said, you know, over a course of a period of 2 years, if you think about it, it will cost someone to do an average number of prints about $450 in ink cartridge replacements. Now, if they get motivated to buy my printer with the initial starting of ink, $150, well, now the perceived value is $300, right? But that's just in the quantitative measure, because there's 3 ways you make decisions. You make it on the quantitative, which are things you can measure, but then you also make it on the qualitative. The qualitative are not things you can measure, but things that you feel, such as, you know, having to go to the store, the inconvenience in your life, the upsetness that you're feeling because of the fact it's costing too much. All that stuff you're adding to that equation also. It's not a number now, but it's part of the equation. So that ratchets it up to 450, up to a higher number. And then the third way that you can measure is through emotional. Sometimes we make decisions emotionally. We want the best product because that's who we are. That's how we define ourselves. It's pride. It's recognition. When you add in all 3 of those areas as to why people buy, it became such a compelling reason. The 450 minus the 150, it was not just the 300. It was all the inconvenience that was being wiped out. It was the ease of use that was being added, all the things that customers wanted. And I said to Jeff, I mean, if this is really true, I mean, you've got a success on your hands. And then how are you going to communicate it now? Because we know if you got a great product but you don't communicate it, well, you're still not going anywhere. Well, I know Jeff. You know, I've known him for 15 years, and I know if he's going to get behind trying to communicate something, it was going to get communicated because he's just a whiz at that. So we decided that this would be a great example because when the book was launching in March, they were just hitting the streets with the campaign, and I was just really secure in the fact that it was going to be a success.
You mentioned the 3 motivators. That's a good lead-in. Then how did you bring the value proposition to life, Jeff?
Well, we really brought it together by just, again, capturing the customer's voice. I'm going to step around and show a couple of slides, if I may, because I think this will be a great way of being able to just show a couple of things that we can do. I'm going to hit it in terms of, let's move ahead of this and get right to the campaign. I want to show the cost calculator. Because one of the things that we did in terms of the cost calculator was really bring forward what we called the Print and Prosper campaign. And what we wanted to do was just change it. I knew what would happen when you went into the store. Because Big Ink has a lot more people than we do. And when you go in the store and you see one of those blue shirts, they're basically wearing it for the other guys. And some of them might be ours, but they're wearing them for the other guys. And what would happen is they'd get you in the store, and what they would do is they'd pull out a shiny mirror. And when they sit there and they would talk to you about the printer, and you'd come in and say, yeah, I want to talk about this printer, it saves me money, they would hold up the shiny mirror, and they'd say, yeah, but the printer's free. But the printer's free. And they would take this shiny mirror and they would shine it in you and get you distracted. So what we wanted to do was get the customer and capture that angry voice so that no matter when they came to you with that shiny mirror, they'd say, put down the shiny mirror and give me the printer I want. Okay? Because we wanted to make sure that they would not waver in what they wanted. And the best way we could do that was to show how people were overpaying for ink. So we put together a campaign that talked about the campaign, and we took over websites and we took over places. So when you went to print out your map at Yahoo, an ad would pop down and it would say, it's not the gas for the trip that's going to cost you so much money, it's the printing out of these directions. Okay? Or when you went to a site to look at a recipe, to print out a recipe, you know, for some, you know, great dinner you wanted to make for your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or whoever it might be, you would print it out and it said the ingredients for this dish aren't the expensive things, it's the cost of printing out the directions for the recipe. And so we created this calculator. Now, a lot of the media and our customers have referred to this as the rip-off meter. Now, I didn't say that, and legally I'm compelled to tell you I didn't say that, all right? What I'm joking about is that the people started calling it the rip-off meter. And what we did is we drove millions of people to the site to say, go see how much you're being overpriced. And what we did was you could pick, you know, whether you did a lot of printing or less printing, very simple. You could pick the logo of the printer that you had. You could actually pick the model. And if you did lots of printing or little printing, it would tell you how much you would save. And we drove through the rates over 50% of the people who came to the site to the end page. All right? I got to tell you, in marketing, that's unbelievable. So it means that our message, the value that Ron talked about, and I didn't know about the value when we first started doing the campaign. He told me about it afterwards. I said, well, that's what we're doing. And we're doing a really good job of it. And so he documented, which was great. And it's great to be able to see someone who's a lot smarter than me be able to put together in a formula what we did. And so that's what we did. And we did it in a number of different ways. Let me show you then how we drove it. And so we drove print ads. It said, think big oil rips you off? Wait until you hear about big ink, okay? And so what we wanted to do is kind of post them together with the bad guys. And so that's the way we refer to our competitors as big ink, okay? Because they've been in your pockets for far too long. There's a $5 billion stain on the U.S. economy, and it's coming from your inkjet printer. Because that's how much Americans overpaid for ink last year, $5 billion. And in Canada, it's $300 million. In the UK, it's how many pounds? A lot, okay? And so we went country by country, and we focused in on the message. And then we built television ads. So let me come over here, if I can, and I'll show you one of the ads. Oh, I think we can turn this up. I'm going to turn the sound up. Can the sound go up a little bit more, guys? Let's see if I can find that. Let's see how good and technical I am. There we go. And then I'm going to play it again. Is that all right with you guys? Good. I didn't care. I was going to do it again. I just wanted you to say yes. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, now we got to go. Guys, how do I get the full slide up? Huh? From current slide. That one? We're all working the new Microsoft PowerPoint. All right. Thank you. You can tell I have the old version. Here we go. Let's see if we can listen to this. This is a fun one. You think that sends a message? Big ink with big oil. All right, now let's watch this one. I like listen to this. Sorry for the sound. We're going to buy you some new speakers here. So what do you think? Very hard-hitting spots. A little departure for Kodak, right? Well, you see, I did put in the little smiling faces, a little giggling. So I slid that in because I was really worried that, when I first showed everybody, because this is a departure. But we had to make sure that the value proposition came through strongly because of the guys with the shiny mirrors, okay? It has to get back to perceived value. If you feel you've been ripped off, What's going to happen when somebody comes and tries to sell you something a little bit later on, right? So then what we did was we surrounded it with what we call a 360 campaign. Let's see if I can. There we go. And so in U.S., just give you a idea, in U.S. and Canada, we hired Laura Rowley as a spokesperson. She hosts blogger briefings, iVillage content. She drove a lot of activities for us, dedicated media, did interviews for us. We did blogger briefings and contests. Contest drove it very heavily. Went, did a lot of Twittering. I'm one of the top-level, C-level Twitterers. I Twittered on my way over here. I'll Twitter afterwards, And we tell people about what we're doing. I talk about Big Ink. And so we get involved in doing everything we can to bring those guys out because I want them to talk about it. So I want Big Ink to take us on. I'm hoping they'll say something because they shouldn't. They should ignore us if they're smart, but if they're not, they'll come after us. And I think they're starting to come after us. So, and that's good because why? Because then we get to talk about the value proposition. I want to talk about the value proposition every day. Every single day, all the time, because if I can tell you, you're going to convince. Before you're out of here, you guys are going to just skip class, rush over to Best Buy or Walmart, and you're going to buy one of these printers and take the other one and throw it in the Hudson River, okay? Along with the book. Along with the book. So, all right, Ron, I forgot. We got Kim Kerr in Canada, so we did the same thing in Canada. We replicated the campaign again and again and again. And ongoing reviews and analyst relations. I mean, it really drove the message. We wanted other people. And we focused a lot on OPM, other people's money. To get the conversation going, I think we did a really good job of driving that. So.
In this day and age, in this economy, process is critical. So tell me a little bit more about that. Succeeding, we had to pay attention to process.
You mean in terms of the results and what we
Right.
did and so forth? I think we actually have a slide on that. Would you hit that, Jackie, for me? So in terms of media, we really stuck. And so what we did was with the team, we said, look, focus on the process. Do not get deterred. Don't get into the game with these guys about features, functionalities, speeds and feeds. Don't puke, I guess would be the best word to use.
Good word.
That's all right. And just trying to do integration as much as we can. And so I said, focus on value statement. Value statement, value statement. Don't deviate, don't deviate. But then let's go to where the people are, and let's capture it. And so that's what we did. And we drove millions of impressions. We wanted to bring awareness. We knew that if we could get the awareness up, and our awareness either doubled or tripled in terms of only a few small percentage of people knew about us before. And now we're into double digits, okay? And we held that double digits, and now we're holding it today. Okay? We moved from one of 9, 10, 11 players to one of the top 5 very quickly in the campaign. And now we're moving above the top 5. In fact, in the UK, I was just told we're number 1. And that's since we kicked it off in May.
And you alluded to it earlier, getting noticed by Big Ink. I guess a few days ago, you've gotten on their radar screen in a big way.
Yeah,
publicly.
They're trying to irritate us with a lot of different kinds of things. I think they're extremely off message. They're trying to question our viability as a company and things like that, rather than talk about the fact they've been charging way too much for ink for a long, long time. They can debate all they want about balance statements and this and that. They make $9 billion a year. $9 billion on ink, okay? It's a high profit, high margin deal. Now, we're just going to charge a fair price. Now, we hope to make a good profit off of it as well, but we want you to print more. We're print ambassadors. George Eastman started the company by saying he wanted affordable photography for everyone. Well, we now want affordable printing for everyone. And so we're going to wrap that banner of trust and taking care of the customer around us, just as we've always have for over 130 years, and we're going to continue to move forward. And that's our message. That's our message, and so we'll stay with it. And it's proving out. I mean, it has to prove out. When, last quarter, down 27%, we're not, in terms of this category, we're moving ahead. As I said before, 47%, I think, Gerard, is that the number, 47? 44, they're correcting me, 44? I got people everywhere. They yell out numbers like crazy. 44%. You did not even see their lips move, did you? 44% in both the equipment and in the ink. And I'm kind of telling you, Where do you see that in the marketplace, you know? Instead, we get negative stories. But we'll come, but the people are buying it, we're doing what we need to do, and, you know, in big ink, bring it on.
And we saw the Commerce Department earlier this week report productivity gains last quarter of 6%, basically companies figuring out how to produce stuff more effectively, and classic or better mousetrap, classic case in point.
We're all doing more with less. Everybody's in that frame of mind. We're actually putting more into advertising than we did last year. We've increased our areas and increased our activity there. I mean, we're doing a lot of different things, and we're getting very, very smart. And so even our campaigns, you know, have, in the consumer side, have a halo effect to our B2B side, and we want to be able to do that. And resonates with the value statement that we have around, again, taking care of customers. You know, at the same time we launched the Print and Prosper campaign for consumer inkjet, we also launched a new Prosper commercial inkjet press. And a much larger scale, much bigger price point than that, very similar in value statements in terms of, you know, obviously you prosper. And that's what we want to show, print and you prosper. And that's what we want people to be able to take away from it. So it's been pretty exciting about the model.
Well, let's turn to the audience here and see what questions they have.
Exciting questions about inkjet. Come on, what's the first question? There's got to be something. Yes, sir. Yeah, well, it's all about usage. I mean, you're going to print more, you're going to do it. It's a big market. I mean, you know, Big Ink has over close to almost 50% of the market share in the consumer inkjet market. On the commercial inkjet market, it's brand new. No one's done it yet. So it's really moving into a different line. If we can just capture 1% of the trillions of pages that are produced each year, we'll be happy. Okay? So it's about that. So there's a lot of room for growth, a lot of room for activity, and more people are finding more ways to print things. You used to go to a commercial printer, got a lot more than that. Now you're doing it at home. You used to go to a photo booth to be able to print your photos, or to Walmart or Walgreens and so forth. You're doing less of that, and you're printing at home. So that's what's happening. So it's not so much we're doing less. You're actually printing more. You're printing more documents than ever before. Print's not going away. It's not dead. Not going to die. Look at the lines of people who line up for Harry Potter books on a Sunday night at 1 o'clock in the morning. It isn't going away. And so now you're just going to do more personal printing, and we're going to go after more and more of that. We've not been in that business, and this is a new business category for us, so we got nowhere to go but up. So we're going to continue to do it.
So along those lines, how did you, from a strategic standpoint, strategic marketing, how did you evaluate the market space? Was it a proactive or reactive response to get to the inkjet market?
Very proactive. I mean, our chairman and leadership, when they first came to the company, actually toured the facility out at Rochester in our research labs, saw the ability for us to do this. And of course, they used to work for that other company. And so they knew the potential that was out there. But when they saw the technology we had in the labs, and we could bring that forward in such a way, in a very innovative model, and then no one had ever gone after this sweet spot of the market, and that's the high burners. And so when we saw it, very proactive on our part. Again, that's why we're sticking to the value statement that we've got. That's why we're sticking to the markets. Now you'll see us continue to move into vertical markets, SOHOs and various vertical markets in terms of who uses the printer, the way in which you use the printer, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of that because I know they'll be watching this tape somewhere. And I don't want to give those things away, but we'll continue to build printers that serve markets in different ways, and it's really exciting. It's very exciting to watch it. I mean, we got some. I can't get over at Kodak, how many smart people we have. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-boggling, the brainiacs that work inside that company, and that you get to be with them, and they get to invent things, and you get to go sell it. I mean, that's what I find to be very fun. So we got so many ideas that we got to get them out.
In fact, our area has the top 10 in terms of patent production over time, to a great extent due to companies like Kodak and Xerox.
Yeah, we're one of the top patent holders in the world. In terms of, I always joke to everybody outside of Rochester, it's so cold here that we have nothing better to do but stay inside and invent things. So it's, I know that's not true. But.
What do you expect from Big Ink in terms of competitive response based on the value proposition you laid out?
Well,
what will they come back with?
Oh, they're coming back.
What will you come back with if they do?
Well, I'm not going to tell you that. But you can imagine that we understand that our competitors will respond back in certain ways. And if you're a good marketer, you plan for various scenarios. Just like if I were a good coach in football, I would have different plays in my playbook depending on different situations in the game. And we not only have thought about those, but they're all ready, lined up, ready to go. In fact, I'll tell you, just to be real honest with you, the team said to me the other day, Jeff, when are we going to let this one go? I said, when we push the button. They're ready, we're raring to go. You're already starting to see it. I don't know if you've seen our new infomercial. We've just launched a new infomercial. Infomercials pulled very well. We do long form, short form. And we drove lots of sales. I won't tell you how many, but that's been a very good thing for the awareness of the product. It's a 28-minute and a 2-minute version of an infomercial. We were one of the most new company, one of the most established companies that moved into that and do it in such a way because you're competing with ShamWow and everything else that might be out there. So you want your product in terms of to resonate. And I think we've done a very good job of it because people are buying it. And we actually sell more than one printer to a lot of customers, which is kind of neat. But we're prepared for it.
I think what you're also talking about is the concept of planned obsolescence. What we've found in companies that are staying at the top, the moment you come out with a technological advance or even a marketing advance, if you will, the day it's out, the top companies like Kodak are going to sit there and say it's obsolete. Why? Because the competitors are going to try and re-engineer it. They're going to try and come out with their scenario. So you're here, you consider it planned obsolescence. They're trying to catch you. As they're coming up to here, you're on your way here. So you're always in a position where you keep turning around and saying, ha, been there, done it, we're here now. The day you stop is a day that your competitors will come and overtake you.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. I mean, right after we launched our first printer, they switched one of their models to our color so that they would sit on the shelves and they would confuse the customer. All right, so we knew that would come, and so we switched colors to another color. Then they came with that one, and we put a line. I mean, those are just kind of from I don't know what the look of the printer. Then you talk about features and functionalities, and I can tell you how many years we're ahead in terms of what our product roadmap looks like and the code words for all those. But then I'd have to kill you if I told you those kind of things. Yeah, I saw that.
As far as the printers are concerned, do they match up? You talk a lot about the ink and the value proposition of the ink, but the printers themselves, how do they stack up against your competitors?
Absolutely on par or better. I mean, because you have to meet features and functionalities. You need to take speeds and feeds out of the game. Whether it's a camera or a printer, quite frankly, you guys have stood in front of the candy bar, is what we call it, camera bar or the printer bar, and you look at this one and it's 9 pages, 10 pages. This one has wireless. This one has wire. So you got to make most of those features and functionalities. Then you also learn whether or not you use all those. All right. Sometimes you have to add features and functionalities to a lot of your products that no one's going to use, but you have to because it's part of the speeds and feeds game that you play in terms of the arms race that you must capture in terms of meeting what they're doing as well. So we do those things, and then we try to do some things better. We think in terms of our quality. For instance, we have the color correction that's on there. I mean, you can actually go to ours, and if you have zits on your face, because of the software we send with it, you touch it, it hit the picture with the button and takes all those off. Makes everybody look like a motion picture star. That's technology that we built. No one has that. The pigment inks. I told you about the pigment inks. Go have some fun. I don't know if you have one of those high-priced printers, but just go print out a photo sometime and pour water on it and see what happens to your picture. And go do that to Kodak, and it's not going to run. Go stick it up in a refrigerator for 7 or 8 days in front of or in the sunlight and see what it does to fade. And that moment, that should be a moment of a lifetime, won't last a moment of a lifetime because of the type of ink that they use, yet we use pigment inks that will last a lifetime. So those are the kind of things that you try to pull out a little bit harder, those unique value propositions that Ron's talked about, that you want to pull forward to be able to sell, and again, to resonate with the marketplace that you want to. And by and large, it's a value statement. You're going to print more, less. And by the way, and even on whether it's Celebrity Apprentice, when we put it on there and we did the task, or we did this on our infomercial with the guy from Tool Time, Richard Carnes, guy that plays Al. Is it Al? Yeah, Al. Thanks, guys. I don't watch much TV. And then we show how much you can print out with them, and then how much you can print out with us for the same price. It's like a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
You're kind of moving into different non-traditional marketing
measure the success of those different options, and which option do you find most success with?
It depends on the product in terms of which media would you use for which campaign, and it depends on the product, and it depends on what I'm trying to get done. I don't think there's any one that's better than the other. It's a blend of all of those, and that's what a good marketer has to do today. Is the company has to blend that, and so I encourage the team to blend those campaigns. Like, I think you're an idiot if you move all to social media. I think you're an idiot. I'll say that if you're a marketer and just do nothing but Twitter, you'll tweet away. All right, and I mean, that's what'll happen. Nobody will pay attention, and the people that aren't twittering won't get it, and you won't get this. But you need to. That's one aspect of what you should do. Direct mail today still remains the best buy there is. I can show you for every dollar you put in, you get $13 back. I want to do that in a heartbeat. Now, does it make sense for me to direct mail to a product that I might sell for $100, and yet I have to put so much in acquisition cost to get it? Probably not. Now, if I'm selling a $4 million printer, okay, that's a little bit different. So it just depends on the media. And so you want to use a blended campaign, and that's what I preach to our teams and certainly to other marketers. You can't just select one media or the other. I mean, we've moved from, in the last 5-6 years, from a broadcast model to a narrowcast model. And that means you want to see things, just like Ron had talked about, customers want to be sold to in the way in which they want to receive the message. And that's what we talked about earlier in this session. So I want to sell to you in the way that you're receptive to that message, and I'll find the best way to reach you. And hopefully I'll do what's called a 360 campaign, which is what we've basically described here in terms of the success that we've had, is that we'll surround you from a 360 perspective so you see us everywhere.
Can I just add something about the social media, because that's a big thing for everybody here? The magic is in the mix. And, Twitter is not the answer by itself. Facebook is not the answer by itself. But as a coordinated effort, social media can make a big deal. For instance, LinkedIn is being used by many sales professionals for prospecting, if they're doing it right. Now, Twitter, you can't sell on, because that's not the culture of Twitter. But you want to say something blowing that someone's going to think about, and then have them go to a blog and read more about that concept. Well, now they're on your website, and now they're reading your blog. And now on your blog, there might be a link to something else, and you're feeding a whole mix, if you will, where you're spreading your message through several entities, and at the end of the day, it's building the brand, it's building the marketing message, and it's leading to that close is what you want. So you need everything. The question is, for each product or each service, it's a different mix. And that's what Jeff is saying.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I like lots of new media. In fact, I mentioned this earlier, I'm one of the top C-level executives that tweet. Although I don't really think I do a lot. I mean, I know people do a lot more than I do, but I have a lot of people who follow me and do those kind of things. But at the same time, I don't know I can be a thought leader in 140 characters. It's kind of tough. And then I do it because I like my family. My family wants to know what I'm doing, and my family's spread out. So that's how I started Twittering. I mean, to do tweets. I'm answering, where am I? What am I doing? And sometimes you get criticized for that too. I remember the Financial Times reporter was following myself and Sir Richard Branson from Virgin around and on our tweets, and critically says, "I don't like the fact that Mr. Hayzlett is talking about a meeting he must go to in Brussels. I don't care." And I wrote back to her on the Twitter that, well, quit following me. All right, I didn't ask you to follow me. I didn't invite you. You latched onto me, and you started following me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me and my family, and then my extended Kodak family, and then now I've got customers and other thought leaders and friends and everything else to do it. And they could read what they want or delete what they want. I don't care. And that's So I think we got a little off track there, but I want to at least tell you that don't just rely on one particular tool. It'll kill you. It'll kill you in today's market.
Going back to the features question, when you don't spotlight quality in your value proposition, what is the risk in that approach? What do you think that?
In terms of quality?
Yeah.
Well, we're Kodak. We have the best quality there is in the world, bar none.
So if you don't spotlight that in your value proposition?
Well, we do spotlight it in terms of the images, the pigment inks that we use. If you watch our infomercial, you'll watch those things. But again, people associate themselves typically with a brand. And so we've been known for Kodak quality forever. I mean, if you want to print to last a lifetime, you go for Kodak. So our brand recognition with our traditional customer base is very strong. And by the way, for the most customer base, when it comes to, let's say on the camera side, the chief memory officer in the family is who? The mom. It's the mother. It's what we call Katie. And she is the quintessential chief memory officer. On the printer, who is it? No. No. It's the mom. She controls everything in your household. Don't you ever forget. All right? I don't do anything. Are you kidding me? You know, honey, she asked me, where'd you like to put it? Where were you thinking? You know? Oh, I like that. Okay? That's what it is. So they're the ones that make those decisions. Now, they might be a little different in age and so forth based on, you know, what we have to offer. But by and large, they grew up with us. We know that. And by the fact that we can associate that trustworthiness of the brand, which is the highest attribute we have as a company, higher than any company in the world, by the way, in terms of trust, is Kodak. And so we use that. We know that's our ace card. So we've got that. So we don't have to push it. So what I want to do is remind you that the feeling that you've been taken advantage of or that you've been ripped off. And that's what we need to do. And so I'm going to drive that. But I'm not really aiming it at you. I'm aiming it at her. And I'm aiming it at her. Okay? Because I know they're the ones who are going to make the decision because they're going to drag you to the store, make you pull that off the shelf, and you're going to go, well, shut up, get that one, and then let's go out the store. And that's what they're going to do.
You know, if I can just talk about quality for a second, because it's a given that Kodak has got a brand on quality, right? But doesn't everybody talk about quality? I mean, they make you perceive that they have the quality, right? So one of my colleagues wrote a book, You're Working Too Hard to Make a Sale, and he interviewed 6,000 buyers. And they asked him, why do you always beat the salespeople down on price? And the answer was, put yourself in my shoes. I got 6 salespeople coming in here every day, and they're all saying the same thing. They got great quality, they got great this and that. At the end of the day, it all seems the same. So how am I going to differentiate somebody by asking for the better price? So when you look at how you're going to market and how you're going to position your product, okay, quality is one of those things that everybody keeps talking about. But when you're talking about the cost of using it, the ability to print volume at a lot less cost, the ability to do the things you can't do right now, that's something that your competition doesn't have. So that's what I call an outcome. You want to sell the outcomes. As a result of making that pane of change and going to a new printer, what's the outcome in your life that you're going to achieve? And that's what you want to concentrate on. And that's why they did it the way they did it.
And we thank you, and we certainly thank Ron for writing about it and for you letting us share it today and being a part of it. It's been a pleasure.
Well, small token of our appreciation, the emphasis on quality, on value added, on changing. We pride ourselves not only with the association with Kodak over the years, over 300 MBA alums currently at the firm, and we're also proud of similar characteristics here at the organization. We're recently rated #1 in the country in terms of private business schools return on investment by Business Week. So a small memento of our brand with our gratitude for being here.
Thank you.
And Ron.
Thank you.
Free stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
I speak for Ron. We like free stuff. It's always
we
good.
love free stuff.
We like swag and tchotchkes, and also on behalf of our founder, you guys have done a pretty good job since we helped. So we appreciate it. So.
And Ron will be outside signing copies of his book, and Jeff will add his John Hancock, Jeff Hayzlett as well.
Yeah, well, that is if you want the value to go down when I sign it, but with Ron, it'll be
It'll
good.
be a dual signing.
Thanks.
Thank you.